Okay, we're back, we're live, we're here in the core of downtown Honolulu in Pioneer Plaza with Mike Hamnet. It seems like I'm spending the week with you, Mike.
Join at the hip, Jay.
Join at the hip. We are doing great things. We are working on the legislative briefing, which takes place at the Capitol on January 16th in the afternoon. And it's going to be fabulous. This is going to be better and more creative than anything in the past, I tell you now.
I have no doubt.
But we're going to have to spend some more time together first. That's Mike Hamnet. He's co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and he's co-host here of ThinkTech, Tech Energy, the State of Clean Energy Hawaii. Okay, and every Wednesday, 4 to 5 is our flagship show, supported by Hawaii Energy and by the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And today, we're going to explore probably the best way to get around, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why I say that. With Ben Trevino, President and COO of Bikeshare Hawaii, and Lori McCarney, CEO of Bikeshare Hawaii. Wow, exciting. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you.
So I'll tell you why I say that. I say that because I used to be a bike racer. I'm telling you, Mike.
No, you didn't tell me.
I was a bike racer. I have lots of miles under my belt. And I traveled these islands, every single one of them, well, almost every one of them, many, many, many times with bike touring. And I went on bike vacations all over the mainland and in Europe all the time on bikes. So I'm very soft on bikes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about that. But before we get into that, we gotta talk to Derek Sonoda, because he's got another idea. He's got a Hawaii Energy idea. I know this because he's given me a sheet to tell me what it's about. And it's, let's see, what is it about, Derek?
We're going to be welcoming Mr. Jewell back into town.
I remember him.
Right.
Very sharp guy, yeah.
Very sharp guy. So thank you for letting me be here today from Hawaii Energy, your conservation and efficiency program. I wanted to kind of prep everybody because we're going into the holiday seasons. Happy holidays, everyone. And when we go through this whole happy and joyous game, we forget a little bit about what we have to do. So I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of a reminder. In February, starting from February 25th, we will have Mr. Mark Jewell on the islands helping us. We'll be holding 4 different workshop time periods, starting from February 22nd. We'll be doing the Learning to See. That's a 2-part show from Monday and Tuesday. Please come out for that. What that teaches is if you're trying to convince anybody to take energy efficiency seriously and convince your internal people as well as your external finance people, he teaches you how to do that. And then the other side of the equation, when you're the receiving end of the proposal of what you're going to do with an energy project, he teaches the people receiving it how to evaluate it better, properly, so that you will get this through your system and you can implement some great energy saving opportunities for your organization. So that's Mr. Jewell. But this time, you know, he's been here for 3 other years. Yeah. He's come to love the islands. And the last time he was here, he really helped the University of Hawaii kickstart their movement towards how they can do energy efficiency more in depth. He's had such a great success. They've invited him to be a keynote speaker for their energy summit coming up that same week. So on Thursday, Mr. Jewell will be doing that. But he has been so phenomenal in helping the university that he has agreed to do another keynote luncheon speaker that same day for the condominium associations and the property managers.
Well, it'll be very valuable.
It'll be about 200 or 300 people, and if you're involved with any of the AOA, come out, because he will teach you different ways of looking at energy in ways that lots of people don't realize we should do this. And because he is such a credible man, he's a graduate of Wharton University, and he's now on the bestseller list for the New York Times. He made a book this past year. You gotta come out and listen to this guy. He has just been a blessing to all of Hawaii.
And you're trying to tell us, aren't you, that Mark Jewell is gonna come on ThinkTech too, and we'll have the benefit of...
Only if, you know, you want him back. He was asking me, could he be back on Jay's show?
Yeah.
But I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but he would love to.
You can do that, Derek.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah?
We should do that, yeah.
Oh, Mark is just great.
Okay.
And everybody that we put him in front of, they have a different understanding about how to overcome obstacles that they've been stuck with. And so he's been just great because he can speak at such a high credibility level directly to all the executives that people see what they need to do to make changes that they wish they could have done years before.
Great news. When's he coming again?
That week of February 25th, all Monday through Thursday. Come to Hawaii Energy website. We'll be up and available for class sign-ups. Come January, very first week, you can sign up. It's a very small cost to attend. It's like a $20 kind of thing, a $10 thing. But he's well worth it. Well worth it.
When do you introduce him, Derek?
Sorry?
When you introduce him.
When will I introduce him?
Yeah, when he's here, will you be the
Oh,
one
of
who
course,
introduces him?
of course, of course. And you know, it's been so delightful to watch people listen to him. We've been doing phone interviews, getting ready for his trip, and everybody has just been so happy to hear what he wants to share with them when he comes to Hawaii. So please,
Okay.
all of your listeners, you get a chance, come and visit HawaiiEnergy.com. Look for some of the events and the trainings that we're going to have. Look for Mr. Jules, sign up really fast because this class will very rapidly.
Okay, Derek Sonoda, Hawaii Energy.
Thank you.
We'll be talking to you. We're going to set him up for that week when he's here. We're going to have him on
The
Hawaii,
24th.
the state of energy.
24th.
State of clean energy.
Aloha.
Yeah, thanks, Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
Alone at last. So how did you guys get involved? Lori, how did you get involved in Bikeshare? And it's unique.
It's very unique.
How did you get involved?
Well, it's sort of an interesting story for me. I have a 35-plus year experience in marketing, advertising, and business management. Most
It takes
recently,
that. This
it
takes
takes
that
a
for
lot.
sure.
It's very
We're gonna
very
change the
simple
way
on the front
people
end, but
think.
complicated on the back.
Sure.
And to make it simple for people, right? And then also I'm a triathlete. And so I've spent a lot of time on a bike too. And I also like to tour around in different places with
great,
touring companies.
great.
So I have a passion for cycling. I also have a passion for health, for wanting to make a difference in the community. And so when the opportunity came up, even though I was retired, it pulled me out of retirement because it tapped into something inside of me that said, this is something that I really want to do.
And it sounds like what I hear interlinear here is that something you believe is a coiled spring ready to get unsprung.
Actually, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, there was a lot of time that I was just thinking about what am I going to do next? And I was looking for a big challenge, and when this came up, it was like, this is absolutely puts everything together that I do. Between my business experience, my passion for health and environment and making a difference, and then my community involvement. So all of those things come together into my desire
We have to
help.
follow what you do now. We have to get regular, status reports. Okay, Ben, how about you?
That's a tough story to follow. I'm not sure that my story will be anywhere near as interesting, but I've been a bike commuter in Honolulu for about 8 years. I've always, at least one or 2 days a
Every day,
week.
Ben?
Not every day.
Okay.
Every day is rough. Every day is a
What's
difficult challenge.
what's the
but-
course that you follow?
Well, so it's been different jobs. I lived in Kailua at one point and commuted into Iwilei area. So I would take my bike onto the bus and then finish the sort of last mile portion of it to get to the Dole Cannery. I've taken routes from Wilhelmina Rise in Kaimuki down to University, and then from Ala Moana to University is probably most. Actually, I've ridden downtown also probably from Wilhelmina Rise. So that was the longest distance I ever biked, maybe
And the
4 or
problem is
5
going
miles.
back to Wilhelmina, right?
Right. Then I was a very frequent bus rider on that end of the trip.
Yeah.
So I've been a bike commuter for a long time, and always seen that it's an important part of our mobility solution. And prior to working at Bikeshare Hawaii, I worked for UHERO, the Economic Research Organization, where it really becomes clear how important energy is to the overall social equation and how important
And to the economy.
and to the economy and understanding what Bikeshare is. You see a lot of impact that it can have on the economy, and it's one of the many benefits that it's able to provide. So that interested me. I'm kind of a data geek, and there's a lot of data involved in Bikeshare.
You did well at UHERO for that reason.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I'm among friends at UHERO with the data nerds. Don't tell them I said that. I think they might be watching. And then for about 5 years, I've run an arts and culture nonprofit with some partners called Inter Island Terminal. And,
sure, we know that.
And a lot of our work has been doing community outreach, community fundraising, and that's also going to be a big portion of what we do with Bikeshare. There's going to be grassroots efforts
Right.
and really getting buy-in from the community. And so when Lori and I talked, we thought that we could put our skills together and really put together a team that could make this happen and bring it in from all different angles.
Okay, so what were the seminal events that made you come together? I mean, somebody somewhere said, hey, let's do Bikeshare. Let's get some people together and actually do it. Where did that come from?
Well, there was a working group first that came about that was saying, Bikeshare would be a good thing to bring to
City working
Honolulu.
group.
There was city, state, and federal. So a bunch of people that came together to say, let's see if let's talk about this and see if it's something we might be able to put
What
together.
was the time frame on that, Lori?
That was early this year?
It's actually been, I want to say it's been at least another year prior to that. They've been working on Bikeshare and putting the plan together and doing community outreach for a long time. And it's a long process to get the required support to bring it together. But they've been very persistent about it.
Very persistent about it. And so that effort culminated in the city doing a feasibility study about Bikeshare. I think that, you know, it's hard now to be in any city and not be aware of Bikeshare, right? Because it's something that we are seeing rolling out into many, many cities across the country.
Well, I mean, I was in New York not too long ago, and Grand Central Station, you know, most crowded area in Manhattan, right there on 42nd Street.
There's a rack.
Yeah.
Right, you know,
Yeah,
there's a
it's
huge
there.
big rack and hundreds of bicycles there.
Right.
And guess what? A lot of empty spots. In other words, somebody took the bike
Yes.
and rode it somewhere.
Yeah.
And they ride in traffic.
I was just there this weekend, as a matter of fact, and I rode a
Oh,
city
did you
bike.
really?
Yes.
See how it worked.
And see how it worked. And I saw a lot of use, you know, and I think I was worried about a little bit about how would people ride bikes in Manhattan, you know? It's
Pretty scary.
But you know what I
Right.
saw was that I saw a lot of people looking out for people on bikes. So I rode a bike from one location over by Battery Park over to Penn Station. And so for a while
It's a
there was a
long
nice
way.
greenway. And so that was like, oh, this is really
It's on
comfortable.
the west side.
Yeah, right along the Hudson.
Yeah, that's nice.
It was
What a
very nice.
ride.
But then I had to turn on 8th. No, where did I turn on? 30th to get to Penn Station. And at that point, then it was not nice green bikeways. But what I noticed was as I was riding, and there were still cars and taxis and buses and trucks, there was nobody that honked at me. There was nobody that said, get out of the way, you know, and I felt like I felt safe. It was very interesting. It was a very different kind of experience
Well, I
for
think
me.
New York
So it was
comes
very
together on
positive.
things like this. You know, New York is it's an integrated city. Everybody, you know, wants to do community-minded things,
Yeah.
and they do. The other thing about New York is that people think that New York is very dangerous from, you know, all the cars and the honking and the commotion and the traffic. One of the things I've never told you, Mike, is that when I was in law school, I used to drive a taxi.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
New York cab.
I was a cabbie for years, and I learned that New York cab drivers are phenomenal. They have extra antennae.
Oh, yeah.
They can see behind
They have
them and around
eyes
them.
in the back of
Yeah.
their
They're
head.
very cautious, actually, because they're so sharp. They're very sensitive to
Yeah.
what goes on. And I think most drivers in New York are like that.
You
So
have
the-
to be.
You have to be.
With the number of cars on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's seen in cities that have more people coming out on bikes and more people, a bike share system, is that drivers don't want to hurt somebody.
No.
You know,
they
but
don't.
it's like you're not aware, you know, when there's only infrequently that you encounter a bike, then you're less likely to look out for somebody on a
Yeah,
bike.
but now everybody's
As you
sensitive
see a
to
lot
it.
of people on bikes, then you're more thinking about, oh, okay, there might be a bike in this, so let me look out for them.
Okay, so you guys have a most interesting task in your lives, I would say. I'm not sure what all the things you might have done in your lives, but I would say, assuming your lives have been fairly ordinary, I mean, ordinary is the wrong word, but
This is the
This
biggest,
is
the
extraordinary.
biggest
this is the biggest
the
thing,
biggest challenge
you know,
that-
because it's a huge challenge.
It is huge.
I'm talking about changing the way people think and conduct themselves in Honolulu, which is not easy, you know.
especially when it comes to driving, when it comes to changing behavior
that
around
true?
driving.
The Clean Energy Day. What was the, remember somebody said, how are you going to, you know, I dare you to try to get me out of my car.
Right, yeah.
Who was that, do you remember? Was it you?
Mike is referring to LiveSift,
Oh.
and we took questions from the audience. And I decided I was moderating the thing, but I decided I was going to ask my own question on LiveSift. So that was my question.
Okay.
So you think you guys are going to get me out of my car? Never. But you know, I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people when I said that.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And we don't expect most people to give up their car. I like my car. My car works great in a lot of situations. But you know, there's other situations when you let's say you're parked downtown, you have to get your car out, go drive, you know, a short distance, look for parking and park again. That's when there's might be a better alternative. And that's what
40
bike
minutes of
share-
wasted time.
It
Right.
is. Wasted time, wasted fuel, more emissions, more frustration, more traffic, you know, all of those things. versus if I could go downstairs, check out a bike, get on it, ride over, dock it. I don't have to worry about owning it, locking it, any of those things. In fact, Ben and I had a little private, almost like experiment. We were over at the Department of Health for a meeting, and then I had my car, and he had a bike. And then we were meeting at a Starbucks on Alakea Street.
Who got there first?
He did.
I beat her
by half the time.
Yeah.
It took half the time for him on a bike than it took me in the car.
And I've even had situations where I had to take my car to go somewhere, and then I had meetings downtown the rest of the day, so I went out of my way to drive my car home so that I could bike the rest of the time and make the timing work out, because it's just so much more convenient to be able to park in front of a building, get down there very quickly, and
Especially
not
if
circle.
there's traffic,
Yeah.
because you can make better time.
Definitely.
You have to know the roads, but you can make better time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I think it's great what you're doing, but how exactly, and your public relations background will undoubtedly help in this. How do you change those wise guys who ask that question? You'll never get me out of my car. How do you do that? I mean, a population here in Oahu of 930 or 40,000 people, and most of them are wedded to their cars. They would spend anything for their car. They're fossil cars. And, their lives are built around their car. They live in their cars. I mean, some people, it's true, they actually do. So how are you going to get them out?
Well, the thing is that you're not going to get everybody out of their car, right? But there are some people that you will. And you know how you do it? You put a more convenient alternative in front of them and let them keep tripping over it. And as they keep tripping over it, and I don't mean literally tripping over it, but they keep encountering it, and they see other people. Oh, there's somebody doing something different. I keep passing this thing. Maybe I should give it a try. And maybe I'll just take it for this one little trip.
Okay, so
Okay, that was interesting.
It's a circle. I mean, it's a loop kind of thing.
It is a loop.
You have to, a spiral, if you will, an up spiral.
A virtuous,
You want
virtuous cycle.
Virtuous cycle. Cycle is not a pun.
There you go. It's
Thank
not,
you.
Right.
but I like it.
You intended that, I know you
Maybe
did.
we'll name it
I'm
that.
gonna write that down. that sounds like a good system
There's a name for it.
If I show you more bikes on the street, then undoubtedly more people will come out and bike.
Well, you know what you think of right now. What other choices do you have, right? Besides your car.
The bus.
For a really short distance, you've got to, and you do. Our transit system is fantastic. But the thing is, you come out, you've got a meeting. Does that bus go exactly where you want it to go? What's the schedule? All this kind of stuff. Our plan is that we have a very dense system in this corridor that
Right.
you don't have to think about. I wonder if there's a bike share station where I'm going or where I'm coming from. You go down, you can go to where you want to go. And it's very individual. It's the cheapest thing next to walking, and it's faster in many cases than driving.
And it will be so convenient that you can't ignore it. I think it'll be in front of you constantly, because there'll be so many stations will come down with such density that it'll be so ubiquitous that you wouldn't be able to miss it.
What I see is the initial mind change is accepting the notion that there's more ways to do this than just driving.
Right.
And that you can keep your car.
Yeah.
And there are circumstances where that's the best way.
Yeah.
But you also have other options. Multimodal, right?
That's-
Yeah.
Right.
Now, where are we at in terms of the development of the bike share, of an actual on-the-ground bike share program?
So we're in the planning phase right now. We're expecting to have a rollout sometime around the first quarter of 2016, if all goes well.
A year from now.
A year from now. We'd love to see the whole first phase rolled out, but we'll see. We'd like to have some bikes
So
on
what
the
are you
ground.
going to do in that year to make this happen?
Part of it is selecting a vendor to provide bike share services. So there's multiple different companies that provide equipment, and so deciding what kind of equipment it is, what kind of technology we want to use.
Right.
Those are important questions, because different city environments will make use of different features of bike share technology.
Okay.
Part of what we want to do is stay on the leading edge,
Of
make
the
sure that
equipment.
Not the bleeding edge.
not the bleeding edge,
Ooh, another pun on that.
but yeah, bike share systems have proven to be very safe.
Permit that, Let's take a break, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to come back and talk about exactly what kind of equipment and the specs for your equipment and
Okay.
what you really want to, achieve, and how you can use the equipment as a way to sell the program. yeah? Okay, this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy. I'm Jay Fidell. That's Mike Hamnet, my co-host. And we have Lori McCarney, CEO of Bikeshare Hawaii, and Ben Trevino, president and COO of Bikeshare Hawaii. And we are going to come back. We'll be right back. Trust me, we're going to come back. You'll see.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're really alive today, talking about bikes, because bikes are so important to be alive and for the community to be alive. And this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy, with me and Mike Hamnet and our guests. Lori McCarney, CEO of Bikeshare Hawaii, and Ben Trevino, President and COO. And as we left it, we were studying the equipment. Now, I might tell you that anybody who ever raced bikes or toured seriously is really into equipment. I used to think that the bicycle was the best piece of equipment, best piece of machinery ever made in the history of the human race, including even nuclear. Bikes are the best thing, most efficient.
They are. That's right. They're the most efficient form of mobility, more efficient than walking, more efficient than driving, most energy efficient at least.
Yeah.
You'll like these bikes. I think you'll like what they have to offer. There's a few design quirks that make them very appropriate for city use. They're upright, so when you're riding the bike, they don't make you lean over, so you can wear work clothes and go from one important meeting to the next. They have specialized parts so that when someone might consider stealing the bike, they can't actually use most of the components.
Oh, smart.
So they're
so you don't
unusable
lose
in other
components
contexts.
that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have a low center of gravity so that they don't tip over. They're stable
A low top tube too.
What's that?
A low top tube, so you can step over them. Even
Right.
short people can step over them.
There's a step-through frame, low center of gravity, so it makes it very convenient for people of all sizes, all shapes and sizes. It's supposed to be a one-size-fits-all for anyone over the age of,
Was that right?
say, 14,
So they'd
16,
be
yeah.
relatively small then, and the seats are adjustable with a little clamp.
Right, adjustable but not removable, so that
Oh,
so you
good.
don't lose them.
Good.
And then there's the most interesting part of these bike share systems is the technology that enables them to form a network. And so that technology comes, depending on your vendor and depending on the equipment, either as a smart bike, where the technology is embedded on the bicycle itself, or a smart dock, what they call a smart dock. And there is a telecommunications element, there's a payment element so that you can access the bikes.
In the bike or in the area where you're letting the bike share?
In either one, depending on the
Depends on the
configuration.
system, yeah.
Yep. And then there's usually some kind of mobile application that will interface with the bike so that you can figure out where they are if you're a client of the system, or use that to register and pay for access to the bikes.
Wow. So let's talk. Can we drill down about it? Is it time to drill down about
Yeah,
that?
it is.
Mike? So you know where this is like the taxi cabs. You know, the taxi cab drivers actually opposed the idea of GPS because then the owner of the cab would know where
Right.
they were when they were taking a nap. You know, and they
Wait a minute,
actually
you're
filed a
carrying
lawsuit.
fares for free.
That too.
Oh, yeah.
But so, I mean, in modern technology, there's no excuse not to know where your equipment is.
That's right.
And so you do know where your equipment
That's right, yeah. That's what I think interests the data geek side of me. There's so much data produced about these systems and the network effects, and you can really track your assets. You know how productive every individual bike is going to be, how useful it's to the community that it's in, and whether or not they're broken or offline. You can study the signals that you're getting and see whether you need to provide better service in a particular area. So it really is a lot of information that can be turned around and used for the customer benefit.
You know, in Paris, they have bike share.
That's right. They were the leaders.
And you know how they fix the bikes? With boats in the Seine. And they repair boats.
Oh, you're kidding?
That's brilliant.
Yeah. And the guys come up from the walkway along
Yeah.
the Seine, they come
Right.
up onto the streets, and they repair the bike either there at the stand or they take them back on the boat. And they get around
Fascinating.
with these boats.
Very
It's really
cool.
cute.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fun.
that is cute.
That's
Yeah.
the most romantic
Yeah.
scenario I've ever.
Now I'm picturing them in Venice on gondolas.
Sure, why not?
In terms of getting started, is this going to be investor financed or is it going to be grant financed, or how are you going to get this up and running?
Well, we do have a big capital raising piece of this whole thing. And so we're looking at everything, but public funding, we're looking at different opportunities to get funding there. We have earmarked some funding from the city and from the state and from the EPA already, but that serves maybe 20 to 25% of what we need. So the rest of the money actually needs to come from a private enterprise. So from private enterprise.
Is this a tax exempt corporation?
We're a tax exempt organization, yes.
Okay, so if I contribute money to you because I really like
And then
what
we'd be
you're
very
doing,
happy for you to
so I
contribute.
get a deduction for that?
That's right.
Yes,
It'll
that's
be a tax
correct.
deductible.
We're a
Right.
503.
But I could also invest, is that right?
Because we're a nonprofit, the investing is a different animal,
Sure.
right? So, but I've been told that there are ways people can invest.
We have our ways.
There's always ways, right? But frankly, the opportunity is, because Bikeshare delivers so many benefits, you know,
Right.
at least 4 main benefits that we've identified. One is the environment, how it can take some CO2 emissions out of the atmosphere, reduce vehicle miles traveled, how it can improve health. If you can combine exercise with transportation,
Right.
you know, just a little bit, 15 minutes each way, that's 30 minutes that you weren't planning on, then that helps health. It also, improvements in the environment help your health also. The economy, we've really seen in other cities that it really helps build local business when you have more people on the street taking smaller trips. And additionally, in Europe, they just published a study that showed that that building a cycling culture has created 650,000 jobs, related jobs.
Wow.
So it's fascinating what it can do. And then finally, society. You know, and when you think about communities and connecting communities and how individual we are when we're at our computers or in our long
cars.
hallways or in our cars, we don't have the same opportunity to sort of connect communities and neighborhoods. And so cycling and bike share sort of accelerates the whole cycling culture, perhaps. That's what then can help have people connect with each other. I like your story about having meetings on your bike.
Since I've started biking, now that I work downtown, my biking route is much more convenient than it used to be to bike in university. So I do end up commuting by bike every day, and it hasn't been that long. We've been on the job for a month and a half, 2 months, and consistently I run into people on my bike route on the way in, have impromptu meetings that are very productive. This actually helps me save a lot of time because I don't have to schedule something with them, and there's not that many people biking right now. Once there's a critical mass, I think this kind of interaction, this kind of spontaneous.
Critical mass, that's what I wrote down in my notes, critical mass.
Mm-hmm.
See?
You did.
Yeah, so.
You didn't even read that. Pretty good. You got some connection.
It could mean anything,
Could
but
be.
no, it's critical mass.
You got virtuous cycle.
How do you reach critical mass?
There's a chicken and the egg or virtuous cycle, however you want to think about it. So, and maybe we'll talk about the cycle track in a minute. But it's a combination of giving people the alternative and putting it in front of them, getting them to start. Other people saying, oh, I see other people like me doing it. Maybe I'll try it. They get out there. Then they say, you know, more bike infrastructure would be nice. Then they support more bike infrastructure. Then more bike infrastructure gets built. And then more people say, I'll try the bike. And then it grows and grows and grows. And that's really how you get to critical mass.
Let me offer a thought, though, actually,
Okay.
Lori. So you can build a fleet, which is job number one for sure.
Right.
And your fleet isn't going to be the whole fleet right away, but it'll be a fleet theoretically that will stimulate people to ride. Later on, you can make it much bigger. But you have to actually get out. You know, I'm reminded, I went for a tour in a movie of Kaimuki and, you know, the Sharrows there and all,
Yeah.
and what I hope to do in Kaimuki. And one of the dreams about Kaimuki, in my view, and maybe elsewhere in the city, is the restaurant thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're riding your bike and you'd like to have a glass of wine or a Coke or something.
Right.
Read a newspaper. Make believe you're on the Champs-Élysées, right? And so there needs to be some facility
Right.
owned by a private restaurateur, owned by a guy who can put some tables out on the street, and assuming the city lets him do that. And so I can stop my bike, I can park my bike, I can read my newspaper, and I can make this whole thing a beautiful experience, okay? So will he do that just because you put a few bikes on the street, or do you have to talk to him seriously on the side and give him some kind of incentive and say, it's easy. You can apply for a permit to put your little tables on the street. We like you doing this. We're going to help you with money or tax breaks.
And we're going to make the sidewalks wider?
Make the sidewalks, exactly. You know, make it happen. Make this into a European city. Now, I think that this would be the realization of Hawaii's greatest dream. You're a part of it, but you've got to get the other parts to cooperate. How do you do that? Because in your virtuous circle, you've got to have all the pieces working.
Definitely.
Yeah, I believe actually that you asked, do you need to incentivize them to buy into this dream and to sort of participate in it? And I think we mentioned the cycle track, and we saw with the support from the business from the cycle track that opted in and said, we support this piece of infrastructure, we think it's going to be good for our business. They're starting to realize what it means to have hundreds of bikes bike by there. That's additional foot traffic. Those are people that could be stopping in their stores. And business people are smart. Their entrepreneurs are savvy. They know what they need to do to improve their businesses and bring in new kinds of customers, the kinds of customers that appreciate an experience like you just described. Those are good customers. Those are
And you
loyal
don't have
customers.
to have a bunch of parking places.
Exactly. It's a much more cost-efficient and
Parking is
space-efficient way.
expensive. This
So when
is
I was
not
in
expensive.
when I was in New York, it was really interesting. So I was on Broadway. I was between Times Square and Gramercy Park. So on Broadway and Park Avenue in the evening. And what I saw, lots of people on the sidewalk. There's always lots of people on the sidewalk. Not that many cars, but a lot of bike share stations. It was like every other block there was a bike share station. And I saw people taking them in and out. And then the thing with bike share is you park it, you're done with it. You don't have to lock it or anything.
Right.
You go do whatever, then you come out, check out another one, and go on your way. And it was like so much mobility in it, and there was so much vibrancy there that's our model here. So when we come out, we're dense. I mean, we're not dense, right? But but we're saying
Depends who you ask.
we're going with a lot of bike stations and a lot of bikes. Not, I wonder if there's some around. This is going to be between, we'll adjust this, but let's say between the Waikiki Aquarium, Chinatown River Street, up to H1, and then into UH. We're going to have 200 stations, and we're talking about them being about 800 feet apart. And so in that
Wow,
sense,
that's ambitious.
that's the,
That's
it's
dense.
like,
Yep.
if you don't do it, this is where the feasibility study and not being
Right.
early, on this comes in. When we study and look at other cities that have launched bike share, the ones who've said, let's put in a few and we'll see how it goes and then we'll fill in later,
That
they're not
didn't
doing
work.
very well.
Yeah.
Because people have to think about it too much.
Right.
It's like, I don't know if it's convenient or not. If you go in a lot, first of all, it's like, oh my goodness, look there's bike share everywhere. I don't have to think about, I wonder if there's this or that. It just facilitates somebody doing something on impulse more.
Well,
So-
I'm sure, we agree with you. I agree with you. I know Mike does too. That it's great to have 200 stations in that zone. But I know what Mike would ask you. Mike would ask you, where are you going to get? How much money do you want for this? This is
Yep.
not cheap.
This is not cheap.
200. Oh my God! Oh, wow.
No, we said that we get support. We're getting support from the city, state, and some federal funding, but it's only a small portion
Right.
of it. So we're looking for $8 million to do this right. Now, there's opportunity though for people to participate as a sponsor. When you think about it, we're not a really heavily outdoor type of market. I mean, as far as outdoor advertising, and we like that. We don't want a lot
We
of
don't want
billboards and
billboards,
stuff
right.
around. But when you think about the opportunity to associate yourself as a sponsor, let's say your name is on the bike, and maybe you associate yourself with one of the benefits that we talked about, the 4 benefits, then you can really stand out as having that be something that you are behind. So as a corporate sponsor, that's something that's important. That could be important to some companies here. As
That's
an
funny that-
individual, you may want to say, I want to make a difference in Hawaii.
People gave the mayor a ration when he suggested there be advertising on buses.
Oh, I know.
It
Yeah.
wasn't 6-8 months
Right.
ago. But I don't think they would give anybody a ration if you suggested
It's
that
not-
between the top tube and the down tube, you could put a little
logo.
A logo.
It's really a
Something.
sponsor identification,
Right.
It's really not, okay, get for sale here, blah, blah, blah. We don't think that that's appropriate for Hawaii anyway.
So-
But the ability to have your brand connected to something that's so positive when you think about the landscape of Hawaii and improving the landscape of Hawaii. We think it's an opportunity.
So $8 million in capital,
Mm-hmm.
and then will it pay for itself in terms of the recurrent costs?
Yeah, so that's the beauty, and I think one of the very attractive things about this market, about the Honolulu market, that includes Waikiki, which
Right.
is it's a very concentrated situation of visitors. The visitor or casual rate tends to subsidize the resident or
Right.
annual rate, and so with 5 million visitors that are coming into Waikiki, very few mobility options that are as apparent and as convenient
Right.
as Bikeshare, we expect that it will generate the kind of excess that will let us expand the system. Once we make the initial capital investment, the operation should become self-sustaining and potentially even more than that.
Well,
generate some excess.
this raises the question of how much is it going to cost me to rent this bike? And we're not going to get the answer until after this break. We're going to hold you out there on tenterhooks. Okay, this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy, from Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and Hawaii Energy. And today, Mike Hamnet and I are having Ben Trevino, President and COO, and Lori McCarney, CEO of Bikeshare Hawaii. And we're going to ask them the hard questions about how much it costs. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. You knew we would come back. You knew. You would have total confidence. That's Mike Hamnet. Mike Hamnet and me are doing this thing with Lori McCarney and Ben Trevino of Bikeshare Hawaii. We're finding out about their brand new enterprise, and we're excited about it here on Hawaii, the state of clean energy. Why does this matter to energy? Well, it's obvious. Take the cars off the road, even for a little while. That's great.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, good idea. And a good idea that is being executed. That's the part. You know, this has been discussed for a while.
It's finally
part
happening.
of multimodal, complete streets transportation solution. We have had very little solution in this area. So, you know, I think the Energy Policy Forum welcomes you onto the scene.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how
For
much
sure.
is it going to cost me?
So here's the idea. You shouldn't have to pay, it should be the cheapest thing next to walking. Okay, so it's cheaper than a bus ride. It's cheaper than getting your car out, parking it, and what have you. There's a lot of different models around on the pricing, so we're looking at that. We're looking at those different models.
Right.
So we don't have our pricing plan down, but I can tell you that the price will not be a hurdle for you.
That's it?
That's it.
So
How about
order-
a bread
order of
box? Is it
magnitude.
bigger than a bread box?
Oh no, let's say that each ride will be, you know, fractions of a penny on the minute.
It's on time.
Well, see, that's what we
That's
don't
where the
know.
models
See, that's what we
are
don't.
different.
Some of the models. Okay, so the most popular model out, and we don't know if that's going to be the best model for folks here. And as we're seeing people deal with it
Right.
now, it's in place. Is that there's an annual membership that's anywhere from $75 to $100, somewhere in that ballpark, and then you get to ride unlimited number of 30-minute rides for free.
Oh.
The issue with it is the 30 minutes that gets complicated for people in trying to hit that 30 minutes, because if you go over 30 minutes, then you get a charge, an overage charge. So that may be the model that we go with, because
Right.
that's the industry
It's
standard.
simpler.
But there may be simpler ones that let more people in, you know, so maybe would price by the hour, you know, and then you can buy stored value, and the more hours that you buy, then the cheaper the cost is. So think of it as, you know, I don't want to throw a number out, but the idea is that it would be as cheap or cheaper than this $100 a year and then free 30-minute rides.
But probably what you'd want to look at too is the option of somebody not buying the membership initially, but having a
Right.
higher
Exactly.
price for a sort
Yes.
of a la carte.
Right.
So that's what we're looking at, because
Yeah.
we do have a visitor market, and
Right.
the confusion that we've seen in other places is they'll say, here's a pass that you can buy for a day pass for $10, but it still has that 30 minutes on it. And so a lot of the visitors get confused because they thought they got a day pass.
Right.
And so we believe that in Hawaii, we want to make sure that there's not a lot of customer complaints and people say, I didn't understand, you tricked me, or whatever. That's
We're
our
in
main
trouble.
concern.
Right.
You know, and so in that regard, that's why we're taking a look at the pricing. And because we believe that the more people we get out on the bikes, then the more money that we'll make. Not, okay, we're going to try to maximize each ride's revenue. Because we have a lot of, we'll have a lot of capital out there. So the more that we can have those bikes being ridden, then the more, so it's sort of like a low margin business
Sure.
versus like,
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to figure out. And we're looking at not just the pricing models then that exist in the United States, but around the world. And, who has a market that looks like ours with visitors and residents?
You make it up in volume.
Exactly. I think volume is
That's it.
volume is the way, because our objective is we're not a for-profit business. So
Right.
when you think about it, our objective really is to get as many people using the Bikeshare bikes as possible.
That's the first
because we
order of
know
business.
then
Right.
that there are going to be more people that say, you know what, this is sort of a great way to get around. Maybe I'll commute some more on. Maybe I'll get a bike and commute.
Right.
And now when I'm in my car, hey, I've been on a bike. I know what it feels like to be on a bike.
And it may be a 2 or
Maybe
3
I
year
want more
ramp.
infrastructure.
Right. But
That's
but
just-
the idea is to price it so that it's competitive with any other trip you might take, and to take price out of the equation when you're deciding to use it.
Well, you got that selling job to do, and this is part of the sales.
Yeah.
That it should
Yep.
be so cheap that people don't see it
They
as an
don't
obstacle.
see it as a right.
You know?
Exactly.
And I guess we swipe your card somewhere when you take the bike out, and it keeps a record of that.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and then you get charged on your card later, or
Mm-hmm.
are you buying, like parking at the university? You buy the time in advance, and
And then you use it down. There's both options available, and actually there's some very exciting conversations with the city about a shared fare media that would work across other transit options. And so potentially we could have the same car that you would use to ride the bus or even the rail when the rail's available, and you could use that for a unified transit ecosystem.
That's a good idea.
that's great. Got to keep on working that so
Yep.
you come up with the best solution.
Yeah, and there's other shared things coming on with Car2Go. For example, and as we support all multimodal initiatives in that one, and maybe that's going to simplify it for people if they know that if we can help connect all the dots on all the payment, so you don't have to search around for money or try to figure
Right.
out, if that's a hurdle. So we want to be able to connect
It's really
in there.
important that it be easy.
Yeah, totally.
We took a trip through Kaka'ako with Chris Leatham. He's one of our
yeah.
hosts. He ran for the Senate for Kaka'ako and lost. But we wanted to have a tour of Kaka'ako with him, and we said, we need to go in a car, so he did car share. And it dropped this on us while we were doing, taking video out of the windows of the car. I've never been in a car share car before, but here's a guy who decided he was going to take the mode that seemed appropriate
Yeah.
for the circumstances. And so for this, he did a car share. I think that's coming.
Yeah.
I think it was very appealing. The car was nice.
Yeah.
Everything works well. But let me move on to the bike track.
Yeah.
I was there watching it, observing it this morning. And it's a little funny because it's on the left-hand side of the street,
Right.
King Street, instead of the right-hand. And the reason is the city didn't want to have to plow up its concrete pads for the buses. That was a problem.
Well, you don't want the buses and the bikes together either, anyway.
True. Leave them on one side, you take the other side. It's a little confusing about the parking.
Right.
I turned out of a business, and made my left turn to continue on King Street, and I found myself in this extraordinary lane of traffic. And I looked in the center of the street. There was no traffic in the center of the street, but only in this one lane. And I said, why did I get in this lane? I got to change lanes. Then I realized it wasn't a
all
lane of
parked.
traffic. I was behind the guy who was parked. This lane of traffic was a bunch of parked cars. It threw me. People are going to have this confusion
Sure,
until they
yeah.
get used to it.
Yeah.
People are familiar with driving on King Street. Everyone's driven on. When you're oriented in a certain place, you expect that lane to be moving, and so it's very disorienting to get into that lane that you would expect to be moving on.
And there
find
weren't a
parked
lot
cars.
of bikes on it. I saw maybe 2 bikes in an hour, and that's not enough.
They also
So-
don't have their message straight, because in some places you hear it's going to be 2-way in that thing, and some places you hear it's going to be 1-way.
And the
That's right.
signs only have one.
Yeah,
It
they
is
do.
it is one way. And that gets to education again and getting, understanding it. And as much as everybody's trying to get the word out, there's a lot of people who still don't know and understand what it is. So.
Some of the news articles have said two-way.
Well, it's the thing about it is that it's one way for now, and
Yeah.
the intent is to make it two-way
Right.
eventually once they can get the appropriate safety signals up for the counterflow
They need to do that.
Right.
I'm thinking of, where this came from, and I think I learned this from Mike Formby, was Europe, and Scandinavia specifically, where they have barricades that leave enough room for you to ride your bike safely between the traffic and the sidewalk. It works well, everybody uses it, and it's a real sense of security. And that's what we have to achieve, but I think it really has to be two ways to be effective.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I really applaud the city for taking this first step,
Yeah.
and I know because I hang around with cyclists too, they're also saying, it should be this, it should be that, it should be the other. And, that's common human nature for all of us.
I just don't want
And
to kill
I think it's
anybody.
like, but the thing is, I bet you're more careful around that. And because you know that there's going to be cyclists there and everybody's looking out for each
Isn't
other.
that true?
So that's a good thing. You don't want to, it's like crosswalks here. Crosswalks are some of the scariest places for me to drive by because I'm always afraid somebody will be in it. But I got to tell you, I'm looking at those crosswalks a lot more carefully now than I did before.
Same thing with the bike lane.
Yeah, and I
You're
think
gonna
it's
look
with the
very
bike
carefully
lane, yeah.
if you cross it or turn into it.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that people, I get so angry when they come in with these letters to the editor, and it's all negative, criticizing. So much so that the newspaper had an editorial this morning supporting.
Yeah.
Give them a
Great.
chance. Give them a honeymoon. Come on.
Right.
And I think people have got to stop writing these negative letters. That's really against the common good. It's against any real progress. It's against the beautification of our city. It's against clean energy. Stop that. Just stop that.
Well, thank you for saying that. We're trying to. I think with everyone that's interested in bicycling is interested in all those things that you described, and we want to see what's not just what's best for bicyclists, but what's best for the city. One other thing that happens when you're around and you're watching out for more bicyclists, more pedestrians are safe as well. And everyone's a pedestrian. Everyone starts or ends their trip on foot, and so if it's safer for pedestrians, it's safer for you.
Okay, Mike and I are going to give you advice now because we have to close the show up. My advice, okay, is you're trying to do a huge transformation. Energy is a hard one. I'm sorry, transportation
It's
is
the
a
hardest
hard
one.
one in energy.
Yeah.
And the Energy Policy Forum been scratching its head now for 3 years, wondering,
10?
10? Okay, 10, it's true. When are we going to get some results in energy? Because we have results in so many other areas of clean energy, but in transportation we've had trouble.
Bloody hopeless.
And this, you could be the bright light. But my advice is, in order to do it, you can't be limited to just the bicycles. You have to talk about the neighborhood. You have to talk about the bike tracks. You have to talk about transforming our city into a different kind of city where life is different and quality of life is better. And so you're not a small thing. You're a huge thing.
Right.
And I kind of wish I were with you. We will be with you.
Yes, please be
We'll
with us.
have you come back and you can give us status. Mike,
We
what's your
should come to the
advice?
forum, the Energy
love
Policy
to.
Forum, and talk about it. We're probably going to organize something on transportation in the next year, and we'd love to get you guys in.
Let us know when
Yeah,
you show
yeah,
up.
we will.
We'll be there.
We
No,
will.
thank you. Yeah, there's, you could just see like Copenhagen or different cities that have done it, and they've been at it for 40 years. Okay, so we're realistic about, we're not going to put in a system and that's the end all be all, but we can be a big catalyst. We think that Bikeshare Hawaii can be a big catalyst to helping to move us in that direction. And we know there's a lot of relationships we have to make. We have to help continue to educate people. We have to support other kind of bike initiatives, other multimodal initiatives. There's a lot of work that we need to do, but we're up for the challenge, and we know that we can do it.
And
We're counting on you, Lori.
And you get allies from other people. I mean, you get allies from transit people, you get
That's right,
allies
yeah.
from car share people, and that's really the way to build this one.
Yeah, it's a network of organizations. The modalities are independent, and yet they have to be close. They have to be in
Absolutely.
a network.
And
That's what
honestly,
we see.
in spite of all the negative criticism that may come out in in light of the cycle track, there's been an outpouring of support for us. Since we started, we've seen people come up to us and say, we think what you're trying to do is really great. We want to support however we can, whether they're private industry businesses or private individuals or other organizations like you described.
Well, and take advantage of the pent-up frustration with not getting anywhere with the transportation sector among the energy community, because it really has been an abysmal failure compared to the electricity sector.
Yeah. So you guys are a bright star for us. So we'll do it again. We'll
Thank you.
keep track
Looking
of
forward
you, and we look forward to great success.
Great.
You should have great success and good health.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very
yeah.
much.
This
It's
has been great.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Lori McCarney, CEO, Ben Trevino, President and COO of Bikeshare Hawaii, here on Hawaii, the state of clean energy, with me and Mike Hamnet. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Aloha.